Hey friends, Shay here. So today I'm here with my top 5 shoujo series that I have completed in the year of 2022. I have finished more than 5 this year, but these are just my favorites that I finished. These didn't necessarily end in 2022, but I finished reading them in 2022. I forgot to explain that in my last completed video, so if you didn't get that from the choices that were there, now you know. So let's go ahead and dive right into my list here. So the first one I have here is Love Me, Love Me Not. Love Me, Love Me Not is my favorite Io Sakisaka series. In Love Me, Love Me Not, we're following 4 teenagers. 2 girls who meet up in circumstances I'm not really remembering at the moment. It has been a minute since I finished this. But through this, they form a beautiful female friendship. I absolutely adore their friendship. One of our characters has a stepbrother named Rio, and our other female character, Yuna, has a thing for Rio pretty soon off. They both look at love differently as well. Yuna has that fairy tale prince idea of love where, I want to say her name's Akari. I can't remember her name right off the top of my head. She's much more realistic. It's like, oh, if a guy asks me out, I'll try dating him for a while, see if it goes anywhere, and if it doesn't, we'll just break up. So she's much more realist than fantastical. And the way this plays out and the romantic partners that they end up with by the end of this series works really, really well for me. There is a dynamic between the step siblings early on that people initially felt uncomfortable with, but I promise it works itself out very, very fast. So just deal with that part. I promise it's not going to end how you think it's going to end. And that's all I'm going to say because I don't want to spoil anything about the series. But this one is a favorite for a reason. Io Sakisaka's art is amazing. And I feel like the pacing of this series is the best of hers that I've read so far. There aren't unnecessary arcs to me because I feel like we deal with some of the stuff you deal with in shoujo romances for one couple, and then the other things we deal with the other couple, so it felt more balanced than trying to do it all with one. So I think that's part of my love for it. All right, let's move on to the next one. The next one is one I've been reading for a long time on this channel, and that is Takani and Hana. Takani and Hana is an age gap romance that is definitely fueled by comedy. So Hana is basically bullied by her dad to go to this marriage interview because her sister's supposed to go, but her sister won't go. So Hana, the 16-year-old, 15-year-old, she's young at the beginning of the series, basically has to pretend to be her sister at this meeting. And the meeting happens to be with Takane, who is her dad's boss in a way, or son of his boss. Anyways, he's the heir to the company, all that kind of stuff. And he starts being a pretentious jerk, and Hana calls him on his behavior. And from there, he's just mesmerized with her and wants to make her fall in love with him. So it's definitely fueled by comedy and antics and shenanigans, and that is most of the fun of Takane and Hana. I think had this series had not been fueled by so much comedy, I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. Because it is fueled by the comedy and because, like, parents are in on it from the beginning, like, it's a much more comfortable situation for me. But again, I am also a grown adult reading a manga that's geared towards a teenager. Would I necessarily want a teenager to think she can date someone 12 years older than her and it's okay? Not so much. So take that with a grain of salt. But I enjoy it as a grown woman, and I found it really good and really fun. I mean, she is much more grown up. Easily 2 years or more passes by the time anything serious really starts to happen with them. So, like I say, it's mostly just shenanigans and rich people problems, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun. So if you can handle an age gap and you go in just knowing it's going to be fun, not take itself too seriously, I think you can enjoy this one. But again, because it's an age gap, it's not going to be for everybody. The next one is my all-time favorite completed manga series, and that is Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beasts. We will be getting an anime for it, I believe, this spring. In Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beasts, we are following a young woman named Seraphi. Seraphi has been raised her entire life to be sacrificed to the King of Beasts. She's basically like a spare in her family. Her family doesn't treat her well. And so she goes in with her eyes open, knowing exactly what's going to happen to her. And then as she gets into the ritual with the King of Beasts, she discovers his secret. And things progress and move forward from there because she accepts the king and his secrets, and he decides to make her queen. So she essentially is his betrothed, and politically, that's not going over well with Beastkind. And so things evolve and develop from there. This is a 15-volume series that is literally the best manga series I've completed. And that's up there with things like Haikyuu and Full Metal Alchemist that I've read. This has surpassed them for me. In this, Seraphi realizes and learns her power and learns when to use it and when to back off. And it's a beautiful thing. And Leo, the Beast King, learns a lot about himself and self-love and self-acceptance through his relationship with Seraphi. And it is beautiful. I love the art. Definitely has a bit of that Beauty and the Beast feel to it. Just because he is Beastkind, she is human. And there's a lot of prejudices and racism that is brought to the forefront through humans and Beastkind and various forms of Beastkind that think they're superior to others. And I think it handles it in a brilliant way. I could talk about this series forever. I will not bore you with that. I do have a dedicated video to why this is my favorite and why I loved it so much. Members of my channel, if you're not a member, I would love for you to join us, have an exclusive reading vlog where I read the last 2 volumes of the series. And chapter by chapter, I'm stopping and telling you guys my feelings and what's going on and why I'm crying and showing you panels, all that kind of stuff. Those are the kinds of things my members get. So if you're interested in becoming a member, definitely do. The next shoujo that made this list this year is another age gap, and that is Living Room Matsunaga-san. Now, Living Room Matsunaga-san, again, is one not everybody's going to love because it's an age gap. But again, I'm coming at this as a woman in my 30s, not a teenager. So again, I don't know if I'd want my own teenage daughter, if I had one, to read it. Not until she was a little older, at least. But in this one, essentially, our main female character, I forget her name right now. Her family needs to move overseas, so she's moving into her uncle's boarding house and staying in Japan to go to school. And that's where she meets Matsunaga, because Matsunaga basically runs this particular boarding house. He's kind of like the on-site manager, essentially, and he works for himself as a designer, like a graphic designer, and so he just works from home, so that's kind of why he's in charge. Everyone else, they're adults, they all have working jobs, all that kind of stuff. And as Matsunaga and this girl get to know one another, they both slowly start to catch feelings, but they also know that there's a big age gap and that she's still in high school. And so they're very cautious about everything. The way this one ends is perfect for me because I feel like our heroine gets a chance to figure out who she is fully as an adult before she's living with Matsunaga again. And I just loved it. I loved it a whole lot. I mean, the fact that Jun Matsunaga is running around half naked most of the time doesn't do anything bad for me personally, but I just really enjoy their dynamic. I think it builds in a really beautiful way, and I just really think it's worth it. Again, this is 11 volumes, a really fun series. If you're not into age gaps, I totally get it. But again, I'm coming at this as a grown adult, not as a teenager. And then the last one we have here is kind of a classic shoujo that I finally got around to finishing this year, and that is My Love Story. My Love Story follows this adorable, beautiful big boy. And he is the sweetest being on this planet. And he has never been lucky in love because he's not the stereotypical beautiful shoujo boy. And he has all these crushes, and they're just trying to use him to get to his beautiful best friend. And that never goes over well with him or the best friend, because if they're going to treat the big guy wrong, the beautiful guy doesn't want anything to do with him. Anyways, one day on the train, he sees this girl kind of getting touched under her skirt. And he immediately goes over, stops the guy, and rescues her. And they end up having a romance. And it is pure as the driven snow. I love them so much. They are so precious. I just adore them. There's a beautiful anime that's basically beat for beat what the manga is, but I think reading it just has a different charm than the anime for me. They're both charming, so you can do either, but I just really love this story and these characters, because she doesn't see anybody but him. He thinks that she's after his best friend again. And so they address that very early on in the series, by the way. But I adore them. This is a 13-volume shoujo series. Again, it's shoujo classic these days, at least one of the modern shoujo classics. And it's definitely worth it. A few of the volumes were a little bit harder to track down. I had to find them used. I actually bought most of my series used from another creator, but I ended up really loving this. I would definitely recommend the series. It's one that's going to stay on my shelves for a very long time. But anyhow, that is all I have for this particular video. I did get a little long-winded in this one. I hope you enjoy my thoughts on some of my favorite series from this year. Let me know in the comments down below what one of your favorite series this year has been that was shoujo, that is finished. And if you're here just because you love me, leave me a lion emoji for Leo from Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beasts. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Was it all just a dream, just all in my head?